I either read this on a church sign or I saw it on the computer, I can't remember, but it said this: choice, not chance, determines our destiny. Choice, not chance, determines our destiny. I want you to think about that, because today in two of our readings, Isaiah and the Gospel, two men have to make a choice, and it will determine their destiny. We will start with King Ahaz. This is one of those examples where we kind of just get dropped into the middle of whatever is going on, and it's hard to piece it together. But Ahaz, the king, is all upset because his kingdom is being threatened by two different enemies, and he's worried that he's going to lose the kingdom. And so he doesn't know what to do, and he's dithering around, and he can't make a decision. So I don't know whether he called the prophet to ask for advice, or whether the prophet just went because he needed the king to make a decision. So he came to him and he said, "Why don't you ask God for some direction?" And he said, "I will not put God to the test." And I don't think Isaiah could understand that response. So he said to him, "Well, think of it this way." He said, "You see that young woman over there who is pregnant with a child? I want you to know that when that child, by the time that child is born and grows enough to know good from right from wrong, your kingdom will be secure." I think that's an interesting way for the prophet to get the king to look forward into the future. He was saying, you can see that she's pregnant, and the child will be born, and by the time he's grown to know right from wrong, your kingdom will be secure. So now move on. This is another example of how the gospel writers would pull something from the Old Testament readings to make a prediction about the coming of Christ, because they said, this child will be born from this young woman, and his name will be Emmanuel, God with us. Probably this was not predicting Jesus' birth, but they pulled it because, boy, it sure sounded convenient, didn't it? A child born is going to be named Emmanuel, fits right into the story, and Matthew's put it right in there. Nothing wrong with that, but I think probably that's the case. So, the king now has some hope for the future, and now he can move on and be the king. And be the king for his people, because the people need to look to their leader for direction and leadership and hope. And so now, hopefully, the prophet has moved the king to make the decisions that he needs to make to lead his people into the future and his destiny. Joseph, he is being presented with a kind of an awkward situation. He has made a contract with the family of Mary, and they are engaged. And that's quite a contract that you sign, and it's very explicit and very detailed, and it would be a big no-no to be pregnant before you get married. So she meets with Joseph to tell him that she is pregnant, and pregnant by the Holy Spirit. Now, I don't know about you fellows, but if your wife came to you and said, "I'm pregnant with a child from the Holy Spirit," you would probably think, maybe I should call the doctor. However, Joseph, being a righteous man, a very religious man, takes it quite seriously, but he doesn't want to go there. He doesn't want to go there because he knows this is a very serious situation. And at the worst, they could both be stoned to death for this. So he's very concerned about Mary. So he decides, look, Mary, we're going to just null the contract. Everything will be fine. You can go off and do whatever you have to do, and I'll go off and continue my life. And that was that. Until he got home that night, went to sleep, and had a dream. Now, how many of you dream? Come on, how many of you dream? How many of you remember your dreams? How many of you have those wild dreams that make absolutely no sense to you at all, and you wonder, what did I eat last night? I think it was the chili. Yeah, a lot of times times, boy, I'll tell you, I wake up and think, I don't know what I was eating, but that was unbelievable. I would rather think that that might have been Joseph's problem when he had this dream, because now he's being told, hey, Joseph, I don't think that's the decision you should make. I think there's a better one for you. I think that maybe you should take Mary as your wife, and don't worry about all the things that might happen. Well, I'm sure Joseph said, that's easy for you to say, but I have to live with these consequences. However, he must have struggled and tossed and turned all that night, and finally woke up and decided, okay, maybe I will. Now, how many of you have made a fairly important decision that came to you in a dream? At least one Anglican has dreams. Oh, two? Good. I think there's more than you think. More of you have probably been influenced in a dream, some decision that you've made. You just don't make the connection. Especially the weird ones. Those are the ones that really, I think, affect you. So, Joseph gets up. He makes a decision to continue his contract with Mary. And, well, you know the rest of the story. It wasn't easy. It certainly wasn't easy for them. So, Advent becomes a time for us to think about the choices we make in our life and how we come about making those choices and how those choices determine our destiny. Now, I was trying to think of an example in my own life where I made a fairly significant decision, and I came up with one, and I think it's because I'm about to retire, and I've been thinking about my career as a priest, and I've been thinking about how I made the decision to become a priest. I don't think it came from a dream. It might have. It certainly didn't come easy. When I decided that I was going to become a priest, it meant I had to go back to school full-time for 3 years. I hadn't been in school for 10 years. I had 4 children, all in public school. I was going to have to commute from Brantford to London every day to do these courses. And I had a Bachelor of Science degree. So I hadn't studied things like Greek and Hebrew and philosophy and systematics and all of that. And I remember I had a few interviews at Huron College, and they looked at my resume, and they looked at me, and they asked me some questions, and it was sort of like, are you kidding? Do you really want to do this? And you're going to commute from Brantford to London every day? Well, we will support you, but wow, this isn't going to be easy for you. And I think I told you before once that when I was deaconed, I think it was, one of the profs came to me when I was standing in line ready to go into the cathedral, and he said to me, Phil, I just wanted to congratulate you because, boy, I was one of those that didn't think you were going to get there. So I made the decision, and it wasn't an easy one, and then even once I made it, it wasn't over. I mean, even as a priest, there were other decisions that had to come. There were many things, trials and tribulations that go on, as they do in all of our lives. So, like, I'm not saying once you've made a decision, everything's going to be fine. We know that we continue to make decisions that affect our lives. And I think Advent's a time for us to think about some of those decisions we've made over the years, and think about times when we've made decisions that have worked out, and times when decisions maybe haven't worked out the way we think it would. I mean, I know that once I became a priest, it wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be, well, a little bit easier than it was. I remember when Morris Robinson at the time, the bishop, said, well, your first appointment's going to be up in Chesley, Paisley, and Tara, and that's a jewel in our diocese. I didn't even know where that was. Where is this jewel? And I remember my first trip up there, I didn't think I was ever going to get there. And when they say you can't get there from here, boy, they're true. That's true. I just kept driving and driving and driving. Anyway, and then the rest of it unfolded. As I look back on my career, I realized that probably this was the right decision to make. And I really, I don't struggle, but I think about it often that, you know, what was behind me, I'll say, put it that way, kind of urging me to make this incredible decision that at the time really didn't make sense. when you looked at my life at the time? I think Advent is a time for us to think about those decisions in our life that we've made over the years. And because, as I said, choice, not chance, determines our destiny. And so when you get to the point in life where I am, and you're kind of looking back, you think, well, was this supposed to be my destiny? And is this it? Now I retire, and is it all over now? What's going to happen? No, I will go on and make other decisions. So now here's the key. Here's the thing that I really want you to think about. As you think about some of those decisions you've made over your lifetime, I want you to look at it this way. That every decision we make in life, whether they're huge decisions or small decisions, they are decisions that we make that make us or help us to become co-creators with God. They're that serious. And I know sometimes it's very hard for us to relate to a God. You can't describe God. You don't really know who, where, what God is. But we know that God has something to do with this universe. And that God constantly makes decisions. And you know, I want to be part of that. I want to co-create with God. And so I keep that in my mind when I make decisions. And you know, if you're having a tough time making a decision, think about that. Think, you know, how will this help me co-create with God? How will this decision make a difference, not only in my life, but in my family's life? I mean, boy, I'll tell you, when I told my kids that I was going to be a priest, they went, "Oh, no, Dad, you don't want to do that." Yeah, I do. "Oh, I don't know whether I want a father as a priest." And I said, "Don't worry, I won't bother you." But, you know, they were affected by that decision. They were really affected by that decision. And they still talk to me. So, and I think I've been glad for the decision I made, because it has helped me grow. It has helped me move forward in my life, and I've learned many things about myself in this profession. And as I said last Saturday, it has allowed me to be part of people's lives in a way that I probably couldn't be in many other vocations. And I think that it was, I was destined, let's put it that way, to be a priest, but I had to make the choice. So, at this fourth Sunday of Advent, we've kind of focused on Mary and Joseph, and they had two different roles in the whole story of the Nativity. Two different roles. Mary had to decide to birth the child, and Joseph had to name the child. Two very, very important choices. And so as you look at Advent and you experience Advent, think about how you have to be both Mary and Joseph. Because every time you make a decision, you're birthing something, and until you name it, it won't happen. So Mary and Joseph were very important in the Nativity story. I mean, I suppose Mary could have had the baby and carried on without a husband, but she needed Joseph to name the child. And Joseph named the reality that changed the world. Let us pray.